Welcome to the Commercial Lease Kickback. I'm Eleanor Curry, a commercial real estate broker and attorney, and I'm sharing every week some of my 15 years of experience in negotiating commercial leases to make sure you're well armed and prepared to sign an amazing commercial lease. And today we're talking about something that's a pretty big concern for business owners, especially after the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey, and that is what happens after flooding. Often your lease has some provisions about flooding, but usually they don't give you the protection you need to make sure that your business can continue on in the case that your place of business floods. So let's talk about some typical provisions that you can apply and really negotiate to make sure you're as protected as you can be. The first one is, how much time does a landlord have to make any repairs required after damage from flooding? Typically, landlords are giving themselves 120 to 180 days to make those repairs. If you're a small business owner though, you know that that's a pretty long time for you to be out of commission without a space. So first step is you want to make sure you get that negotiated to the shortest amount of period you can. Usually 90 days, that's 3 months. Now, even that can be a really long time to be out of business, for your space to be closed, and it can be a death sentence to a lot of businesses. So you want to make sure you partner that portion of it with whatever you can for casualty, for flood insurance for your business. So you want to make sure you kind of partner those two together once you've negotiated your commercial lease. You want to also make sure that your lease clearly defines who's paying for the repairs and to what extent. Perhaps you got your space as a vanilla box and you made repairs yourself or upgrades yourself, and your lease may say your landlord is just going to take it to the condition that it provided it to you in. So if it was a vanilla box, they may just be willing to take it back to the vanilla box. So any upgrades that you've invested into the space may not be the landlord's responsibility. You want to make sure you read your lease carefully and ask those questions so you know exactly who would pay for what in case of a flood. You also want to make sure you clearly understand what happens as far as your rent payments when your space is out of commission. Are you still responsible? Is there a rent abatement? Does that mean that your rent is extended for any period that is abated? And last but not least, you really want to hone in on that precondition repair. If it's going to take 90 days, or even if it could take up to the 180 days that may be in your lease, you want to make sure you clearly understand what that number is, because if there are any problems, usually the landlord has its own option to terminate the lease in the case that it's going to take longer than what time frame is allocated in the lease. But that may not work for you. You may also want to have the right to terminate a lease if the repairs are going to take longer than whatever the time frame is prescribed in your lease. So if it's a 90-day time frame, they have to get the repairs done and they're operating outside of that time frame, you want to make sure you have the option to terminate your lease and find another lease, and that the terms for that termination are advantageous to you. So those are some really important tips when it comes to negotiating your commercial lease and taking into account all the things that could happen in case there's a flood. Tune in every week as we talk about ways you can make sure you maximize the negotiation opportunities you have in your commercial lease, and like, share, and subscribe the YouTube channel Commercial Lease Kickback. Thanks.